Good day! Why, what are we looking at here? Why, this is Quake 2, but it looks a little different. Well, this just so happens to be Quake 2 on the Nintendo 64. Now, I chose to do Quake 2 on Nintendo 64 primarily because I want to save Quake 2 on the PC for later. I want to do a co-op Let's Play with that because there's a number of co-op mods that work with it. But, you know, schedules, time zones, things of that nature. Now, we are using the Mupen 64 emulator primarily because one of the other N64 emulators that actually makes the game look a little bit better just doesn't work with Fraps for whatever reason. It crashes all the time. And I'm not really sure why that is. I recorded a crap ton of footage with that same emulator. I can't remember the name of it at the moment. With Fraps for the Duke Nukem 0 Hour review. I'm not sure why it doesn't like Quake 2. It's just kind of weird that way. So there is that. That is one random issue that may happen if you decide to ever record Quake 2 on your own. I haven't had a weird thing where the sound cut out for some reason. Invisibility. One of the most useless power-ups known to man. You know, that invisibility power-up in Doom was utterly pointless. Can you see me? No, I can't. Okay. Because, like, in the, in Doom, and I just hurt myself for no reason, in Doom, the invisibility power-up doesn't actually make you invisible. I guess it makes you kind of hard to see, but I've always found it to be completely useless. Now, with a lot of the modern-day mods and stuff like that, you know, it makes it where it works. But, you know, the original one just was utterly pointless. Now, I am using RetroArch for this particular Let's Play here. I, for the longest time, used a emulator called Project 64, but this particular game does not work very well with Project 64. And as you can see, while we're using more or less modern controls, the dual thumbstick kind of thing, the controls still aren't that amazing. So probably going to end up getting way more hurt than I should be. I think the reason why Fraps doesn't like to record it with that other emulator is there's a lot of frame rate drops in Quake 2 on N64, regardless if you have the expansion pack or not. And of course, this being an emulator, the expansion pack is automatically enabled. So I'm guessing the recording software just doesn't like that. Incidentally, as of this recording, I just saw that Happy Video Game Nerd video on the expansion pack. And apparently, there's a lot of issues when recording Resident Evil 2 with the expansion pack enabled. Although, I think he was trying to record the original N64, and this is just an emulator, so I do not know what the issue may be. I wonder if I actually turned off the expansion pack, what would happen? But I'm too lazy to do that. But there are some audio glitches now and again with this particular game. Not really sure why, but oh well. That's what happens when you try to emulate N64. Even after all these years, N64 emulation isn't exactly perfect. It definitely was a lot worse back in the day. Still, though, this is a very impressive game for the system. The N64 has always been a system that I've absolutely loved, and it's one that I grew up with. And unlike with my Super Nintendo, I never lost my games for it, and I still have a fairly sizable. Since we're just going to be using save states, we will go ahead and not bother trying to save to the memory card. We will, of course, be going through the first 4 missions. We're on a different planet entirely. Which I guess this is like the Strogos system or something. There's not really an intro cutscene or anything like that. But that's perfectly fine for me, I suppose. The story for Quake 2 does have a lot of fodder for expansion, and I would like to have seen a Quake 2 novel, but sadly such a thing never came to pass. Although there were Quake 2 action figures and things of that nature, although I do not own any at this time. But this is as good as the PC version. I find it doesn't have quite as good animation, and it does simplify a few things, but still though, putting this on the N64 was not an easy prospect. And the Nintendo 64 was a very impressive console back in the day. Now, I did not play any PlayStation games back then. You gotta remember, these days it's, I guess, a little easier to get multiple consoles, but back, well, at least back when I was a kid, oh, that was a massive frame drop. That's in the game, you know. But back when I was a kid, you know, I did not have, my mother at the time did not have the kind of money to get me a PlayStation 1 and an N64 and all the games for it, you know. Because money was tight back then. That is to be certain. But getting an N64, you know, I still feel that the N64 is a better console than the PlayStation 1. I know, shots fired, right? But it had so many great games on it, you know. I know you didn't get Resident Evil, except for Resident Evil 2, but I didn't care about Resident Evil back then. That just wasn't a game that I was really that big a fan of. But, you know, what you did get was you did get the Turok games. You did get GoldenEye, which I never played multiplayer back in the day. And you got, like, some more obscure games that I liked then. I'm not sure if I'd like it now, because I haven't played it in many years. But you get games like Sarge's Heroes, which I thought was actually pretty good. I don't know why that piece of the HUD is going away. I don't remember enabling that, but whatever. It's like so immersive, man. I need to save, because I am getting the shit shot out of me. Save states. I forgot about those almost after having played Doom 2016. But anyway, we'll just move on from that one. Oh, talking about Quake, I don't know if these videos have gone up or if I have had the time to do them, but I am planning on doing some Quake Champions content. As of this recording, I've played a bit of it, and you know, it is more or less just Quake 3, but with modern-day graphics and a few hero shooter elements. But I'm actually quite impressed by it. I'm actually enjoying the multiplayer. They really kind of, they're very nice about getting you acclimated to the game, because like you have to reach a certain level before you can even play against other human beings. You just play bots, which reminded me a bit of League of Legends, which is a game I never got into. But I thought that was kind of cool, actually. That way you don't get immediately discouraged the second you join a game and immediately start dying all the time. I do like the fact that Ranger makes a return. I'm just gonna keep missing that guy, aren't I? Now I gotta remember which controls for the weapons. But glad that Ranger makes a return. Although some of the dialogue that Ranger gets is a bit silly, though. But I'm definitely looking forward to playing a bit more of that particular game, because it is a lot of fun. I will admit. Although I do get a weird glitch, like when it first tries to load in, it uses 100% of my CPU, which is kind of weird. In the actual game, it doesn't even use a fraction of that. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the problem with that is. But, whatever, ladies and gentlemen. That's just something that I guess is going to happen. Oh, man, the game does not like this room. I can only imagine that's what was causing the fuck-ups with recording. Because I guess Fraps is trying to record this at 60 FPS, and this isn't 60 FPS. This is... And it's that bad when not recording. Oh, I'm run! I'm probably dead. No, I'm not. That explosion isn't gonna do much. That still looks pretty good though for N64. But PlayStation 1, that was what everyone wanted back then. But you know, having gone from the Super Nintendo, I really wanted to keep up with Nintendo, and I am seriously considering. I'm not sure when I'm gonna do it, but I am seriously considering finally acquiring a Nintendo Switch, because I would like to play. I would like to play Breath of the Wild, yeah, from Glorious Nippon. But finally play Breath of the Wild. It sounds really good. There is a way to emulate it, but sadly, and jump to the teleporter. But sadly, the emulator just isn't quite there yet, which really sucks. But yeah, that's just to be expected. I do like the fact that it does have that password option, though, because not everybody back in the day had a memory card. That's something to remember. Not everyone had that. I didn't get a memory card until about 6 months after I got the... No, it wasn't 6 months. I take that back. I think it felt like 6 months, but I did not... It wasn't that long. I got the N64 for Christmas... Whatever year that Turok 2 came out, that's when I got my N64... And 2 months later, for my birthday, I got a memory card. And I can tell you, playing a game without a memory card is not an easy prospect, but I have done it. Like when I got my Dreamcast, I didn't get a VMU until, like, way later. Because, you know, you get an expensive console and you get games for it, you know. That memory card ain't cheap. That's like 30, 40 bucks. Or something along those lines. But, let's see, where was I? The VMU unit was such a big... Like, they could have made it cheaper, you know, if they didn't have that little screen that I never used back in the day. But I actually played a good chunk of Sonic Adventure without a memory card. No joke. No joke at all. Although I will say one thing about Sonic Adventure. I never owned it back in the day. I only rented it. It was one of those rental games, despite being my favorite game for the Dreamcast. Never owned it. Not sure why, because I had a bunch of other really cool games for it, but I never owned that one back then. I remember quite distinctly playing some sort of flying game. I can't remember what it's called now, like, at all, but it was a flying game, and I was just so impressed by the graphics. Just, you know, going from N64 to Dreamcast was a pretty big leap, because the Dreamcast was, in 1999, really a big deal, you know? I don't know if I got that in 99, maybe it was 2000, I don't remember. I do not remember most of those dates, because they all just kind of flow together at this point. But I will say this, though. My first console was indeed the Super Nintendo, and I was happy to have it, because while I was definitely a PC gamer back in the day, the big problem is those weren't my computers, obviously, because, well, I was a kid. And computers back then were not cheap. So what I ended up doing, what they were my grandfather's. So whenever he was doing his various work on there, I'd use my Super Nintendo. And the Super Nintendo is still I still have a big soft spot for that console. It's definitely one of those things that I think has aged better than a lot of other consoles. A lot of consoles do age pretty well, because it ultimately comes down to the quality of the games. But the Super Nintendo, with its 2D graphics, I always will say this, 2D ages much better than 3D in many instances, just because of the nature of what 2D animation looks like. And, oh god, I remember this. Okay, and just let that one go away, and jump! And let that go away, and run forward! And just watch that one. Come on. And jump. For whatever reason, FPSs around this time love to have insta-kill. Oh crap, it's a fucking tank. Legitimately. Okay, where is my grenades? You know, if you try to fight this guy in a stand-up fight, he'll just fucking eradicate you. But if you just bounce some oh well, bounce it right at myself, because I am smart. Okay, and we're gonna need to just run past! Well, I guess, Bitterman here is just way too fat to run past. No! Let me get... Crap. Crap. Give me... If only I had a better weapon than a goddamn grenade launcher, because I always will swear that these grenade launchers are utterly useless in most games. Or at least I've never been... I've never been able to use them appropriately. Come on! I am so screwed. I am so screwed. Okay, charge past him. Ah, there we go. And what we'll do is we'll just fucking try to blast him with these fucking things. Now see, this is where the tank is actually a pretty deadly enemy. The big problem with the tank in the PC version is just the fact that he's too easy to kill. But here, you know, here, I should have saved, but I'm an idiot and didn't. But here, he actually has a good amount of health. He can do a shit ton of damage to you, and all you have is the grenade launcher that you shoot at the wall and doesn't do anything. Come on. And get him. You know, I was in cover. Can I just have the win the game DLC? You know, there needs to be an easy... You know, I actually didn't follow that, that Cuphead controversy. Mainly because Cuphead isn't my kind of game, but, you know, the idea... How self-entitled are people today? Where it's like, people can't experience the full game for themselves because they might not be good. Like, what are you talking about? If you're bad at the game, watch a Let's Play. Have you heard of this thing called the internet? And, you know, it really does... It is from one extreme to the other sometimes, you know? Also, I want to point something out. Look at that. The flies. I just love that. When I was a kid, I thought that was like the most amazing thing ever. There's flies, and they're like flying around the dead bodies. It's like, oh man, we're living in like the future game times. And you know, back in the day, like when you killed something, it was just a sprite, you know. But now you got this 3D model, and there's flies that spawn. That was really cool. You don't see that today, though. Sadly, most of the bodies just disappear. When the bodies hit the floor, they kind of just disappear. Sadly. Whoa! I didn't know he could do that. He didn't. Oh, I know what happened. Oh, they're fighting each other. You know, that seldom happens whenever I am not recording. Huh. Ooh, right in the dick. As the AVGN would say. Come on! It is the deadliest battle. Okay, kill. I don't know which enemy I hate more. Well, you know what? And I did not have any. Well, you know what? I hate that guy more than the fucking Berserker. So I'm glad the Berserker won. Because at least he can't chuck grenades at me. But it really does go from one extreme to the other in many instances, though, these days. You know, you got people who say all this stuff, all this anti-SJW stuff, which is good. But sometimes they get a little too sensitive. Just a little. Like, case in point, Spider-Man Homecoming. I started really disliking the Marvel movies when the Thor movies... Well, not with the Thor movies, but just when I watched Thor the Dark Project. I see, like, there is nothing going on in this part of the level that should make the game chug this much. But apparently it does. And it would do this normally anyway. Oh, I'm stuck against the wall! No! Can I shoot that and make it do anything? Nope. I gotta reload the save. At least I'm not that far back. But, let's see, where was I? But, yeah, like, when that Thor the Dark Project came out, I was like, ugh, I'm just so tired of these Marvel movies. But, you know, recently I've given them another try. Watched Ant-Man. Really good movie, actually. Actually has a lot more personality than a lot of the latter-day Marvels do. Come on. Thank you. It's like, why would that need to be that bloody... Why would that need to chug so much? It's just a door. It's just a room. Ant-Man was quite good. Doctor Strange was a little dull in places. It's very predictable in what would happen. Like, I get there's only so many things you can do with introducing superheroes, and I'm not saying it's bad. Well, the base plot is decent enough in Doctor Strange. It's just done in a very generic way. Because, like, Iron Man, when I hold up Iron Man, I'm holding it up not as, like, a paragon of storytelling, because it's just a basic superhero origin, but it's how it's told, how it's shot, and everything, and the type of characters within it. Doctor Strange is just kind of generic as a character, or at least how he's characterized in the show itself, whereas, you know, Iron Man, they really knew how to write Tony Stark well. And they really knew how to film it very well. It felt like nothing had ever come out before. Whereas, you know, Doctor Strange, it could have been anybody. You know, it could have been any superhero movie made within the last 20 years. You know, it just felt dull. It's a little better than a lot of those early 2000s superhero movies, but that's really what it reminded me of. Ant-Man didn't have it to that bad of an extent, but still, it just kind of lacked the life that Iron Man had. One movie that actually did have a good amount of life to it, though, was Spider-Man Homecoming. I thought that was the best I know people will disagree. I can understand why they would, but I think it was the best Spider-Man movie yet. As I've said in many Let's Plays, I disliked considerably the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans. I did not like them at all, even back in the day. I did not like the... I actually haven't even seen the Garfield ones, but I doubt I would like them anyway. At the end of the day, Tom Holland's Spider-Man was actually pretty good. He actually had a lot of energy to him. He actually was fairly likable. But one of the complaints about it was forced diversity. It's like, really... And I can understand where someone might say it's forced diversity because, you know, Peter Parker, you know, he has, like... The school he goes to is very diverse, but the thing is... Does that really even matter? I mean, they weren't sitting around saying how terrible everyone is, how terrible America is, or anything like that. They were just people. So it doesn't really matter what skin color they had. So it's like, I think that's where they're a little too sensitive about such things. Just because Peter Parker has a fat Asian friend that doesn't really mean anything. In fact, I like the fat Asian guy. I don't even really care what skin color he had. He was a cool character. He was actually legitimately funny, and was able to actually brought in a lot of humor to the show. You know, and with that, I have to ask, like, what was wrong with him? You know, and Flash Thompson in this is now Indian, but he acted exactly like Flash Thompson normally acts. So what's the problem? It's just one of those things where it goes from one extreme to the other these days. It's just, so long as you got something to complain about, I guess that's good, right? But Spider-Man Homecoming really impressed me. I thought it was going to be complete crap, but it was actually pretty good. And seeing Michael Keaton come back really made me most pleased. Because I'm a big fan of Michael Keaton. I liked his portrayal of Batman. And, you know, his villain was actually, of all the Marvel movie villains, his was very sympathetic. You know, he was the little guy getting shat on by the government. And, you know, I was very surprised that they had a villain like that. And I'm glad that, well, I don't want to spoil the ending, but I'm glad it ended the way it did. Honestly, though, I'd like him to get reformed, like, in the next Spider-Man movie, and, like, be a member of, like, Spider-Man's team. I think that'd be, I doubt that'll happen, but it'd be really cool. Something like that did happen in a Batman comic. I think it's, like, Batman Earth 1, if I'm not mistaken. It's not Batman Year 1, it's Batman Earth 1. It's an Elseworlds. And I need to jump down here before I am vaporized and save. And grab some health, too. Batman Year 1. I think it's Batman Year 1 2, if I'm not mistaken. And in that one, Killer Croc actually becomes a member of the Bat Team. I thought that was really cool. See, the thing is, villains are great and all, but there's always this desire of mine to see the villains eventually reform and actually become crime fighters themselves. I know that's kind of a weird way to look at it, but I think it'd be awesome. But then again, when you have something like that, the villains can't be too villainous. They have to have some humanity to them. And the Michael Keaton villain in Spider-Man did have a lot of humanity to him. He actually was a legitimate human being. And I think I doubt he'll be reformed, but it'd be so cool if he did. Because, like, in the course of the movie, I think he kills, like, one guy. But if you actually watch the movie, the guy was going to sell him out. So it actually makes logical sense. He's not one of those villains where he just kills his own side just for the fun of it, you know. And I was so impressed by Ant-Man, moving on from Spidey-Man's. I was so impressed by Ant-Man, I'm actually going to go ahead and go see, in the theater, first one in a long time, Ant-Man and Wasp. When I saw the trailer for Ant-Man and Wasp when I went to see Deadpool 2, oh yeah, Deadpool 2 is fucking amazing. If you haven't seen it, go see it. When I saw that, I was like, it looks really stupid, but having actually seen Ant-Man 1, I don't think it's going to be too bad. One thing about Deadpool, though, is they kind of tease him forming X-Force, but then X-Force is really the butt of a joke. I do hope, well, the ending kind of, the post-credit scene really does kind of fix that. I do hope that the post-credit scene takes it to its logical conclusion and they can be a part of Deadpool 3. But from what I have read is that they do want Deadpool to be like a solo act, which, you know, Deadpool with a team, I think that'd be kind of cool. They could play off each other. Now, I've not seen Avengers Infinity War, mainly because I didn't care. Avengers 1 was not a bad movie. I saw that in theaters when it came out, actually. It's just a very forgettable movie. I see why people love it, but it's just kind of forgettable. It's like there's not... It's very by the numbers, and I just... I didn't dislike it, but it's one of those movies I would never really watch again, because it just kind of lacks a certain artistry to it. And I just got blown up for my... I got blown up for my sins. How dare I say that Avengers was not that good. There's not much else they could have done. Let's put it that way. There's only so many things you can do with Avengers. Now, I can see why it has made billions of dollars, though, because it is a fun movie. See, the thing is, you know, when people try to pretend like they're smarter than they really are, they're like, oh, it's so stupid, it's superhero stuff. You know what? People like superhero stuff because it's fun, light entertainment, you know? That's really all it's meant to be. And that's really all it should be. It's just fun, light entertainment. You know, it's just good guys and bad guys fighting each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I think it could have been done in a more artistic way. Similar to Iron Man 1. It's just fun. Superhero fan. I don't know. I guess you have to watch Iron Man and really pay attention to see what I mean when I say that. Because I know it's like, I'm just filleting Iron Man 1 here. But, like, when you look at how it's shot, how it's edited, you can really see just how much better it is. It doesn't tell a better story, not by a long shot, but it feels better, you know? It feels more, I guess, epic in scope. Let me put it this way. One shot that comes to mind is like Tony Stark's house. His fucking house. The way that shot, the music, the way it plays, just really, it sells the grandeur of that house, and is thus more memorable for it. The humor also works a bit better as well. Like when Iron Man drops in through the roof the first time and he crashes into his fancy car. You know, that requires major talent there, because he could have just crashed on any car, but he crashed on the fanciest one there. You know, and that's memorable for it. And I think that's just something the latter-day Marvels just lack. It's something that you have to be me to really, truly understand, I suppose. Or maybe everyone else gets it. Also, you gotta love the fact, compact disc! In the future, aliens will use compact discs. As you can see, this game just works. It's just such a good little N64 game. I'm enjoying the Let's Play already. Alright, and I am the mighty Generallotz, and I'm gonna wish you good Iron Man 1, or whatever makes you happy.